Liam had never imagined that living with an alien would be this strange. It wasn't that he had anything against aliens. He just hadn't expected to share a small apartment with one. But after his old roommate moved out, Liam was desperate for someone to split the rent, and Threx, his new roommate, seemed like the best option. Threx wasn't like the aliens Liam had seen in the movies. Threx was tall, really tall, and had skin that glowed with a soft, translucent blue hue. His eyes were huge, too, with 3 large pupils in each one, which gave him a rather intense stare. But what freaked Liam out the most was the way Threx seemed to look through people, not at them. It was as if the alien was analyzing everything about him. Every time their eyes met, Liam felt like Threx was memorizing his thoughts. The first few days were awkward. Threx didn't speak much, mostly observing everything in silence. He was clearly trying to understand Earth's customs. Liam, on the other hand, was doing his best to make small talk. But it wasn't easy. Threx would ask questions like, "Why do humans sleep in a lying position? Is it necessary?" Or, "Why do you wear such tight clothing?" Liam found himself explaining things that he'd never thought about before. Why did humans sleep lying down? Why did we wear pants? He'd never asked himself these questions in all his life. One afternoon, things took a turn. Liam had just finished taking a shower and was rushing to get dressed when he heard a knock at the door. In his rush, he forgot to close the bathroom door completely. Threx, always curious, happened to be walking by when he noticed the open door. Liam didn't hear him coming until it was too late. As he stepped out of the bathroom, he found himself face to face with Threx, who stood frozen in place, his many eyes wide and unmoving. For a split second, Liam and Threx locked eyes. It was the kind of awkward moment that would make anyone uncomfortable, but it wasn't just that. Threx didn't look away, didn't blush, didn't apologize. He simply stared, his expression unreadable. Liam's heart raced. "Ah, Threx, you're not supposed to be in here." His voice cracked slightly. Threx tilted his head, his many eyes narrowing in curiosity. I didn't mean to intrude. I was merely observing." Liam quickly grabbed a towel, wrapping it around his waist as he fumbled for words. "Okay, yeah, observing is fine. But, next time, maybe knock first." Threx didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Liam with a deep, calculating gaze that made Liam feel like he was being scanned by some kind of alien X-ray machine. Finally, Threx spoke. "Your skin, it is so different from mine. I did not expect this." Liam's face turned bright red. "It's just skin, Threx. It's not that amazing." But Threx wasn't listening. He was already lost in thought, completely fascinated by the simple sight of human flesh. Liam couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. He'd been naked in front of strangers before, but never an alien. This was definitely new. "Well," Liam said, trying to break the awkward silence, "I guess I'll just get dressed now." Threx nodded slowly, still staring. "Of course. My apologies." But Liam couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something strange. Something that would change everything. Threx's curious eyes didn't seem to be just fascinated by human skin. They seemed to be hinting at something much bigger. And Liam couldn't help but wonder what that something might be. The days after the awkward bathroom incident were filled with an uneasy silence. Liam couldn't help but feel that something had shifted between him and Threx. It wasn't that Threx was being rude or invasive, but the way the alien looked at him now made Liam feel different, more aware of himself somehow. Threx would often watch him with those huge, unblinking eyes, and Liam could sense that Threx was trying to figure him out, every little movement, every word. It was like being under a microscope. Liam tried to go on with life as normal. He still had to work, still had to do his laundry, still had to deal with the usual stuff. But Threx was always there, lurking in the background. He'd been acting strange, too. Threx was no longer as quiet as he had been in the beginning. He asked Liam more and more questions about humans, about why people laughed, why they got upset, why they needed food and water so often. Sometimes, the questions felt too personal, like he was trying to understand Liam on a deeper level. One afternoon, Threx approached Liam while he was watching TV. The alien was standing in the doorway, his long limbs casting a shadow over the room. Liam glanced up and saw Threx's eyes scanning the TV screen, then looking back at him with an almost puzzled expression. "Why do humans laugh when they see something unusual?" Threx asked, his voice sounding serious, like he was trying to get to the bottom of some great mystery. Liam blinked, taken aback. "I guess it's because it's funny. You know, when something's unexpected or surprising." Threx nodded slowly, but he didn't seem satisfied. He moved closer, his eyes fixed on Liam, like he was trying to read his thoughts. "You laugh at things that are strange, but why?" Liam scratched his head, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. "I don't know. It's just how we react. It's like laughter is a way to release tension, I guess. Humans laugh when they're happy, nervous, or even when things are awkward." Threx was silent for a moment, clearly processing this new information. Then he asked something that made Liam's heart race. "So, when I saw you earlier, in the bathroom, were you nervous? Did you laugh because of me?" Liam's face went red. "Threx, you don't just ask someone about that. It's personal." He shifted uncomfortably, feeling like he wanted to crawl into a hole. "Let's just drop it, okay?" Threx seemed to consider this, his many eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "I understand. But I do not fully understand you, Liam. I want to understand." Liam exhaled sharply, trying to calm his racing heart. "Well, I'm not sure you'll ever fully get it. Humans are complicated." Threx tilted his head, as though he hadn't quite grasped the concept. "Complicated, like the human body." "Yeah," Liam said, forcing a smile. "Exactly." Over the next few days, Threx continued to ask questions, and they became more frequent. Sometimes it felt like Threx was studying him more than he was simply living with him. He'd ask about why humans cried, why they felt joy, or why people needed space. Threx was like a sponge, absorbing everything he could about Liam's humanity, but Liam was starting to feel overwhelmed. It wasn't just the questions. Threx was also starting to act different. His posture seemed less formal, more relaxed, and Liam could swear that Threx's eyes lingered on him just a bit too long, like there was more going on behind those alien eyes than he was letting on. One evening, as Liam was making dinner, Threx quietly entered the kitchen and stood by the counter, watching him carefully. Liam glanced up and raised an eyebrow. "What's up?" "I have been thinking," Threx began, his voice unusually soft. "I want to know more about you, Liam. Not just your body, but your mind, your thoughts. Why do you act the way you do?" Liam felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. This felt like something else, but he wasn't sure what. "I don't know," Liam said, his voice hesitant. "I'm just a guy, Threx. I don't have some big mystery to solve." Threx didn't answer immediately. He just stared at Liam for a moment, then slowly, almost imperceptibly, nodded. "Maybe I will understand one day." Liam turned back to the stove, trying to ignore the strange, intense gaze that followed him. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that Threx's interest in him was turning into something more than just academic, and that made Liam more uncomfortable than he wanted to admit. It had been a few weeks since the awkward bathroom encounter, and things between Liam and Threx seemed to have settled into a strange rhythm. The tension that had filled the apartment after the incident was still there, but it was quieter now, almost like an unspoken agreement. They both avoided talking about what happened, but Threx's questions about human biology had become more frequent, and far more specific. One evening after dinner, Liam was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Threx was across the room, sitting at the table, scribbling in his notebook. Liam couldn't help but glance over at the alien. Threx's intense eyes were focused on his notes, but it was clear he wasn't just writing. He was thinking deeply about something. Finally, after a long silence, Threx spoke up, his voice as calm and measured as ever. "Liam, I have been thinking about something." Liam glanced up, raising an eyebrow. "Oh, what's that?" Threx's many eyes locked onto him, studying him like an experiment. "I would like to learn more about human anatomy. Your body is so different from mine. I have many questions." Liam froze for a second. "What do you mean, more about my body?" he asked, his voice a little tight. He wasn't sure he liked where this was going. Threx tilted his head slightly, as if trying to figure out the best way to phrase his request. "I have observed humans for some time, but I believe that in order to fully understand your species, I must study you more closely. Your skin, your muscles, your internal organs. I want to understand how they work. It is purely scientific. I have no ill intentions." Liam blinked. "You want to study me? Like, really study me?" He tried to make sense of the request, but it felt strange. The whole idea of Threx observing him, his body, specifically, seemed a little too personal. Still, Liam knew Threx wasn't trying to be creepy. He was just different. Aliens were different. "I do," Threx replied earnestly, his many eyes serious. "You are unique, Liam. Humans are unlike any other species I have encountered. I need to understand you better, for both our sakes." Liam hesitated. He wasn't sure how to respond. On the one hand, he didn't want to offend Threx. The alien was, after all, his roommate and had been nothing but respectful up to this point. On the other hand, this whole idea felt incredibly weird. I don't know, Threx," Liam said, his voice wavering. "This is a little personal. Are you sure you need to know all this stuff about my body? Can't you just, read about it or something?" Threx didn't seem offended, just patient. "I have read much, yes. But I believe direct observation will allow me to learn in a way that books cannot. I would not ask if it were not important. I seek to learn the truth of your species." Liam looked at the alien, considering his words. Threx wasn't asking for anything inappropriate. He just wanted to study human biology. Still, the thought of someone, especially an alien, closely examining his body felt awkward. But then again, wasn't this just science? It wasn't as if Threx was asking for anything out of line. After a moment of silence, Liam sighed. "All right, I guess we can try it. But we need some ground rules, okay? No touching without permission. No weird stuff. Just strictly academic." Threx's eyes brightened, showing a flicker of appreciation. "Of course, I will respect your boundaries, Liam." As Liam reluctantly agreed, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was the start of something much bigger than he had anticipated. And while he still didn't fully understand Threx's fascination with human anatomy, he realized there was no turning back now. Whatever this was, it was going to change things between them. The agreement to let Threx study him wasn't something Liam was particularly excited about, but as the days passed, it became something they both just got used to. At first, the sessions were clinical and distant. Threx would carefully measure Liam's limbs, ask him to perform certain movements, and take detailed notes about his skin and muscles. Liam, feeling like he was the subject of some strange experiment, did his best to stay still and not make it any weirder than it had to be. But slowly, something started to change. It wasn't just the way Threx studied him, it was the way Threx was becoming. The alien's usually cool, detached demeanor had begun to shift. He was no longer as clinical in his observations. Instead of focusing only on the biology, Threx started asking questions about Liam's experiences, how he felt when he was happy, what made him sad, what it was like to fall in love. These weren't the kinds of questions you'd expect from someone who had only been in the galaxy for a short time. But Threx was genuinely curious. Liam didn't know how to feel about it. Part of him wanted to push Threx away, to remind him that they were just roommates, nothing more. But another part of him was strangely intrigued by the alien's interest, especially as it seemed to go beyond just the scientific. Threx didn't just want to understand human biology. He wanted to understand human emotion. One evening, as Liam sat on the couch flipping through a magazine, Threx approached him, his eyes focused in a way that made Liam feel like he was under a spotlight. "Liam," Threx began, his voice softer than usual, "I have noticed something. I am changing." Liam looked up, a little confused. "What do you mean, changing?" Threx's many eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "I feel different. My thoughts are different. I have been studying your human ways, your emotions, and I find myself experiencing them too. This is not something I expected." Liam blinked, unsure of what Threx was getting at. "You're feeling emotions? Like real emotions?" Threx nodded slowly. "Yes, it started small. At first, I merely observed your feelings. I learned about them. But now I feel them myself. I feel the warmth you feel when you are happy. I feel the tension when you are uncomfortable. I even feel the quiet sadness you sometimes experience." Liam sat up straighter. "Wait, are you telling me that you're becoming human?" Threx's expression softened. "Not fully human. But I am beginning to understand what it means to be human. It is more than just the body, Liam. It is the heart, the mind, the way you experience the world. I never thought an alien could feel these things, but now I do." Liam was silent for a long moment, absorbing Threx's words. He had always thought of aliens as cold, logical beings, driven by science and reason. But here was Threx, an alien who had somehow managed to tap into something far more complicated. Emotion. It was strange, and yet there was something incredibly human about it. Threx's transformation wasn't just physical anymore. He wasn't just studying Liam's body. He was starting to understand him on a deeper level. Liam could see it in the way Threx looked at him now. His eyes were no longer just analytical. They were full of something, a warmth, a curiosity, something that was undeniably human. "Does it scare you?" Threx asked softly, as if sensing the shift in Liam's mood. Liam didn't answer right away. He had to think about it. The idea that an alien was starting to understand emotions, his emotions, was both fascinating and a little terrifying. But in a strange way, it also made Liam feel closer to Threx. The alien wasn't just a roommate anymore. He was something more, something complicated. "I don't know," Liam finally said, his voice quiet. "But I guess we're both figuring this out together." Threx nodded, his many eyes reflecting a glimmer of something new. The days had become even more unusual. Liam wasn't sure when exactly things started to feel different between him and Threx, but now it was undeniable. Threx, once distant and purely scientific, had begun to act, well, almost human. He'd laugh at Liam's jokes, ask more personal questions, and at times, his gaze would linger just a little too long. It was almost like they were becoming friends, but not quite. There was something else there, something Liam wasn't ready to face. One evening, after a long day at work, Liam came home to find Threx sitting at the table, his notebook open in front of him. The alien had become more comfortable in the apartment, and it was obvious that the studies weren't just about biology anymore. There was something deeper happening, and Liam could feel it in the air. "Hey, Threx," Liam said, throwing his keys on the counter as he walked past. "What's going on?" Threx didn't immediately respond. Instead, he was staring at a page in his notebook, his many eyes narrowing as if lost in thought. Finally, he looked up, his expression serious. "Liam, I have been thinking. A lot." Liam stopped in his tracks. Oh, that sounds like trouble. Threx smiled, but it wasn't his usual detached smile. This one was softer, more genuine. It is not trouble, Liam, but it is important. I believe that I am starting to understand feelings, not just emotions, but something deeper. Liam frowned, setting down his bag. What do you mean, something deeper? Threx stood up and walked toward him, his tall figure looming slightly over Liam. I feel something when I am near you, something that goes beyond curiosity or science. It is not like the studies. It is something different. Liam's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly felt nervous, his palms sweating. Threx, what are you talking about? Threx's eyes softened as he took another step forward. I believe I am experiencing affection for you, Liam. Liam froze. Affection. For him. He had always thought of Threx as just a strange, fascinating alien. But hearing those words, seeing the sincerity in Threx's eyes, made Liam realize just how complicated their relationship had become. I don't know how to feel about that. Liam stammered, his voice low. He didn't want to hurt Threx's feelings, but this was crossing a boundary he wasn't ready to cross. I mean, you're an alien, and I'm just me. Threx tilted his head, his expression almost confused. I do not understand. I have spent much time learning about human connections. Humans form bonds with each other. It is what makes you human. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. This was harder than he thought. Yeah, but this is different. You're not just any person. You're not even human. And this whole thing is just weird. Threx stepped back, his many eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hurt. I do not wish to make you uncomfortable, Liam. I only wish to understand. I have been learning. But I never intended to cause you distress. Liam felt a pang of guilt. He didn't want to hurt Threx, especially not after everything they'd been through. But this was too much too fast. He needed time to figure things out. I know, Threx. I know. I'm not sure I'm ready for this. It's a lot to take in. Threx nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting a quiet sadness. I understand. I will give you the time you need. I do not wish to rush you. Liam appreciated Threx's response, even if it didn't make the situation any less awkward. As Threx turned and went back to his notebook, Liam sat down on the couch, his mind racing. He had never expected anything like this. An alien roommate who didn't just want to learn about the human body, but was starting to form emotional attachments. It was all too much. Still, one thing was clear. Things between him and Threx were changing. And whether he liked it or not, they couldn't go back to how things were before. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that everything between him and Threx had changed. After Threx's confession, things felt different. Every conversation seemed loaded with unspoken words. Every glance, every small gesture felt like it had more meaning now. Threx had admitted to feeling affection for Liam, and though Liam had asked for time to process it, he was still confused. Could an alien really experience feelings like a human? And if so, what did that mean for their relationship? Liam tried to keep things normal. He went to work, hung out with his friends, and came home at the usual time. But when he walked into the apartment each evening, it felt like there was a weight in the air. Threx was still his roommate, but it wasn't the same anymore. One night, Liam came home to find Threx sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a piece of paper. He looked up as Liam entered, his eyes soft and intense. Liam, I have been thinking, Threx began, his voice low and measured. I believe I owe you an explanation. Liam set down his things and looked at Threx, wondering what he was going to say. An explanation about what? Threx stood up and walked toward him, his long alien limbs moving with an almost graceful precision. About my feelings. I understand that it may be difficult to comprehend, especially for someone who is human. But I want you to know that what I feel is real. and I do not wish to make you uncomfortable." Liam felt his heart race. This conversation had been inevitable, but he wasn't sure he was ready for it. He shifted uneasily, trying to find the right words. "Threx, I—" But before Liam could finish, Threx held up a hand. "I do not want to pressure you, Liam. I understand that what I feel may not be reciprocated, but it is important for me to tell you. I have learned much about your kind, and I have learned that humans need honesty. So I will be honest with you." Liam swallowed hard. He hadn't expected this level of honesty from Threx. The alien seemed genuinely vulnerable, as if he was offering a piece of himself to Liam. It was hard not to be affected by it, even though the situation still felt strange. "I don't know what to say," Liam admitted, his voice shaky. "I never thought this would happen. I mean, you're an alien. I'm just a guy. This is so different from anything I've ever experienced." Threx's eyes softened, and he took a step back, clearly understanding Liam's discomfort. "I understand. I am not asking for you to feel the same way. I only wish to express myself, so that you do not feel confused or pressured." Liam let out a long breath, running his hands through his hair. "I appreciate that, Threx. I really do. It's just a lot for me to handle. I've never thought of you like that. You're my roommate, my friend, but not more than that." Threx nodded slowly, his many eyes reflecting a mixture of sadness and acceptance. "I understand, Liam. I will not ask for more than your friendship. I only wanted you to know the truth." Liam could feel the weight of the moment. For the first time, he realized how much he valued Threx's honesty, how much he cared about the alien's feelings, but he still didn't know what to do with his own. This wasn't a situation that could be fixed overnight. "I'm glad you told me," Liam said quietly, his voice softening. "I just need time. I'm not sure what I feel yet." Threx gave him a small, understanding nod. "Of course. I will wait. I will always respect your space." As Threx turned away, Liam felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, confusion, and even a little guilt. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: their bond had changed forever. The days after their conversation felt like they were in limbo. Things between Liam and Threx hadn't gone back to normal, but they hadn't fallen apart either. There was an unspoken agreement now, a sort of understanding between them. Threx gave Liam the space he needed, and Liam tried to figure out how to handle the strange new dynamic that had formed between them. Liam couldn't stop thinking about the conversation they'd had. Threx had been honest about his feelings, and Liam had been honest too. But the truth was, Liam didn't know what he felt. He had never thought about Threx in a romantic way. But now, with everything that had happened, he couldn't help but wonder. Could he ever see Threx as more than just a roommate? More than an alien who had come to study humanity? It was confusing, but maybe that was part of the process. Maybe it just took time. One evening, as Liam sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone, Threx walked into the living room. He looked the same as ever, but there was something different in the air, a sense of peace, as if the tension that had built up between them had finally settled into something more comfortable. "Liam," Threx said, his voice soft but steady, "I have been thinking about what you said, about needing time." Liam looked up from his phone and met Threx's gaze. "Yeah, I want you to know," Threx continued, "that I respect your space. I will not push you for anything. I will wait, however long it takes." Liam smiled slightly, grateful for Threx's patience. "I appreciate that, Threx. I really do. I don't want you to think I'm rejecting you. It's just, I'm not sure what I feel yet." Threx nodded. "I understand. I am not asking for anything. I only want to be your friend. I know that relationships, whether human or otherwise, take time. I have learned that it is important to let things unfold naturally." Liam felt a sense of relief wash over him. For the first time, the weight of the situation didn't feel so heavy. Threx wasn't pushing him, wasn't demanding anything. He was just there, offering his friendship and his honesty. "Thanks," Liam said, his voice sincere. "That means a lot to me." There was a long pause, the kind of silence that was comfortable rather than awkward. Then Threx did something unexpected. He reached out and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. A simple gesture, but it felt meaningful. Not romantic, but a sign of trust and understanding. "I have learned much from you, Liam," Threx said softly. "You have shown me what it means to be human, not just with your body, but with your heart. I am grateful for that." Liam looked up at Threx, his heart swelling with something he couldn't quite explain. Maybe it wasn't love. Maybe it wasn't anything that could be labeled so easily. But there was something there, something real, a connection. "I'm glad I could help," Liam replied quietly, feeling the warmth spread through him. As the days went on, the strange, unspoken bond between Liam and Threx grew stronger. They continued to share their lives together, learning more about each other, their cultures, and their experiences. They never labeled it. They never forced it. It was just two beings, learning from one another, understanding each other in ways neither of them had expected. In the end, Liam realized something important. Sometimes, the most powerful relationships aren't the ones that start with a grand declaration. Sometimes they begin in small, quiet moments, moments of trust, of patience, and of simply being there for each other. And as Liam looked at Threx, his alien roommate, he knew that no matter where this journey would take them, they would figure it out together.